Congratulations, you have a job offer. That is a really big win in itself. But I am assuming if you are here, there is something you want to change or negotiate. So welcome to your negotiating an offer cheat sheet. So inside this cheat sheet, what we are going to do is build your case to counter. And that is going to include crafting your pitch, countering and negotiating tactics, and then a final decision on what you're going to do for this offer. Make sure you have a copy of this document handy, your offer package also handy, and your browser open and ready. So as we said, we're going to build your case to counter, and you want to consider the entire benefits package of your job offer as a whole. So if the full offer is still not satisfactory, then you can proceed with the following activities and document your results. When I say look at the full package, I mean look at the salary, the PTO, the health benefits, the retirement match, the career growth, the job opportunities, the working hours, location or flexibility, bonuses, equity, perks. If any of that doesn't feel right or is significantly below your expectations, that is your cue to build a thoughtful counter. So if that is how you feel, we're going to start off with section 1, crafting your pitch. Here, you want to research the standard compensation data for your role, location, and experience. So check out websites like Glassdoor, Indeed, LinkedIn, PayScale, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics for reputable historical information that you can use as evidence to help craft your counter. Next layer and level of strategy to implement from your own professional skills, qualifications, experience, and expertise. If you are intending to bring value beyond the minimum requirements, explain how you can plan to capitalize on that value for the company and why your request, whatever that request may be, would merit consideration. So here, know your worth. What are you bringing to the table beyond the minimum requirements that justify the value or the compensation and the change in your offer that you're seeking? Next, I want you to consider balancing the trade-offs. So as I mentioned, you want to look at the package as a whole, right? So if one piece of the package isn't working for you, suggest adjustments. For example, maybe this could be less base salary for more PTO days. Like say you're very busy in your family life right now. Maybe you have kids. Maybe you are taking care of a grandparent or a parent and you need some more PTO days. And maybe you're willing to take a little bit less in your salary for more PTO. Then that could be a trade-off. Another trade-off could be more salary for less PTO days. Say that you're just ready to rock and roll and you don't see needing vacation days in the foreseeable future. Maybe that's a different counter or trade-off that you could propose. So after doing all your research and collecting all your evidence, then you want to write out your pitch. You want to practice also delivering your pitch and keep the tone positive, professional, and respectful. Try to be clear and concise on what specific features of the offer that you would like to negotiate and change, and use the evidence in your research to explicitly bolster your proposed refinements. And trust me, don't skip this. Say it out loud, write it out. This is going to help you stay confident to advocate for what matters most to you. Because here's the thing. You're already at no. So the only thing that you're doing with this is potentially looking for them to say yes. But if you don't ask, you're already at no. So the more that you can practice, the more that you can prepare, the better that you will be in a position to counter successfully. And finally, for this last step, just formally send a written request to discuss the offer terms with the hiring manager. So for your first set of action items, do your homework and gather evidence for your case to counter. Write out and practice your pitch as well. So now that you've done the prep, it's time to have the actual conversation. So request a short meeting to talk through the offer, then keep these tactics in mind under the counter and negotiating section. First tactic, ask open-ended questions. Encourage the employer to share more about the offer and their expectations. If you have evidence and research, which you've done, to support the expectations, you may have viable grounds for your counter. And if you present your counter, but they off the bat say that's not something that we can adjust, this could be a perfect opportunity for you to say, I'd love to understand which aspects of the offer might be open for discussion. So maybe if the one that you're looking for isn't, maybe there's another piece of the offer that might be. As a quick example of this, whenever I took my first job, the base salary was not negotiable, but I did have other credentials with a master's degree that qualified me in the marketplace for a higher offer. That just wasn't something that they were able to budge on for my starting salary. However, the hiring manager did say, we will compensate you additional in terms of our hiring bonus. So I had competing offers, and that was something that they did to ensure that they were definitely interested in me, and they were willing to acknowledge that I did have more qualifications and credentials and skills under my belt than some of the other starting analysts at my level. Let's move on to active listening. So as you present your counter requests, make sure to carefully listen to the hiring manager's responses. Try to relate how your request would best help position you for supporting this role, and duly try to understand the constraints that the company may have on expanding their compensation package. Like I said, really pay attention to their tone and their reasoning. They may have a budget or policy limits, and understanding those can be helpful for you to respond respectfully and thoughtfully. Next, if you have alternative offers, you can leverage these cautiously, especially if those offers are stronger. You can bring it up only if it's real. Do not bluff this, and if it's relevant. Be honest and keep it professional. However, it may be useful in your request to the hiring manager if it would be possible to match that compensation package of the other offer if it's more aligned with your preferences. Like I said, this technique is somewhat taboo. Use it with caution at your own risk and under the right circumstances in your discussions with this hiring manager. Moving on to the next tactic, if you feel like you need more time to consider the offer, potentially due to other pending offers at alternative companies, ask if there is the possibility for an extension on your decision, especially if the hiring manager is not inclined to adjust your offer at all from the counter request, and you are juggling maybe some other opportunities or need to consult some mentors for perspective on your offers. Ask politely for an extension to consider their offer. They may give it to you. They may not give it to you depending on the demand for the job role that they have or that the supply of the applicants coming in. But knowing you're a high value candidate, this may be a play to make sure that they understand that you need to consider the best offer for you. And that might be something to push them to consider making adjustments to your compensation package in order to show you that they are very serious about you as a candidate. Next, feature growth. Ask the hiring manager about the career progression of this position and the potential for compensation adjustments as your proven performance and tenure progresses. And your last tactic is you have to be willing to walk away. So if the compensation package is significantly lower than your expectation or the market rate, be prepared to express your viability elsewhere. If that does not change the position of the hiring manager to accommodate and you don't want to settle and it's not the right opportunity and the future growth isn't there and this is just not the juju, not the vibe that you feel like you need for a very important decision of where you're going to be spending a significant amount of your days, then you may need to voice that this may be an offer that you need to pass on. Remember, this company is taking a big chance on you to offer you a job for a healthy salary on their end, if you think of what they're investing in you, but you are also investing in them. So it needs to be mutually beneficial. However, sometimes if it's the right opportunity, if you work and you build trust and you let your work be the proof and the evidence that shows your worth, then that company will very easily revisit the topic of compensation over time. It's okay to compromise. All right, in our final section of this cheat sheet, deciding what to do, your final decision. So after the conversation, you'll either have a revised offer or you won't. If they agree to your counter, be gracious, thank them for their flexibility, get everything in writing. This is really important. Do not rely on verbal promises. Make sure to have formal documentation on the paperwork. And congrats, you now have negotiated your offer and you're starting from your base of where you would like to go. So great job and great work on this effort. On the other hand, if the hiring manager does not decide to concede to your counter request, ask yourself a couple things. Is this opportunity still worth it at the current offer? Can you learn and grow and build something meaningful here? Is the company worth it, even if maybe the offer isn't perfect? Or would you rather walk away and hold out for something that aligns better? And here, you're not being difficult. You're being very thoughtful and methodical. and you deserve to make that choice with clarity. Your job is very important. You're going to be spending at least, probably if it's a full-time job, 8 hours a day minimum at this job with these people at this company, in this industry, in this role. You need to make sure that it's something that, even though, yes, it's a job, it's a paycheck, it's a means to an end, it's still something that is the right stepping stone for you to get you to the place that you want to be. So that's really important. So make sure that you consider your options with this opportunity. If you feel like it has the right potential and is worth the lower compensation for a period of time, and it has a very clear trajectory for your future growth, it may be worth taking. But on the other hand, there are plenty of employment opportunities in the world and ways to earn income. So if you have a hard time settling on this plan, and if it doesn't feel right, if it's just there's something really off about it in your gut, it may be worth steering your efforts to an alternative opportunity. So quickly, let's review your action items for this negotiating an offer cheat sheet. I would pull it out anytime that you get an offer and go through all of these action items to make negotiating easier. Number 2, formally request time to discuss the offer terms with the hiring manager. Number 3, leverage the tactics in the counter and negotiate section to conduct your pitch with confidence, authority, and poise. Number 4, having clarity from the hiring manager's response and decision on behalf of the company, you can determine your stance for your final decision. I just have a couple closing thoughts. You do not need to negotiate like a shark. Do not take this personally or get defensive about the negotiation. That's also going to signal a lot of red flags to the recruiter. Take it without defense and do your best to argue for what you're worth, but do it in a respectful way. And last, you don't need 10 years of experience to ask thoughtful questions or express your needs and desires for this position. Just take comfort in that you don't need all of these years of experience under your belt to be able to ask for what you want or what you know that you're worth. Remember, your job has to work for you too. All right, just to recap your takeaways from this exercise, you now have a blueprint and a strategy to build your case for countering, which included crafting your pitch, the actual counter and negotiating tactics, and then finding peace and confidence to make your final decision. All right, everybody, that wraps up this tutorial. Go craft your pitch, and hopefully with this worksheet, it makes it just a little bit easier to develop a winning one.